All right, welcome back to the Detroit Lions News Podcast. Let's talk about the Colts defense now. The Colts defense is led by some pretty critical players that we're going to highlight right here. Obviously, you look at Kenny Moore, number one on the docket. He has the highest pass grade, one of the highest pass grades on the Colts. You look at his run grade, 73.0. It's pretty good. Grover Stewart, he's great against the run, 71.3. His pass rush, he's not a pass rush guy, but he does do a great job at defending the run because DeForest Buckner is his counterpart, and he struggles with that. Now, here's Zaire Franklin. He's a linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, and I will tell you this right now. As good as he is in the run game, as many tackles as he has overall, he is absolutely dreadful in the pass game. You see his Pro Football Focus grade of 52.1. You see his run grade at 70.5. He's a liability in the linebacker core. Their linebacker core is not good at defending the pass. They're some of the worst pass defenders on the Colts team. There are some linemen that are better than some of the linebackers on the Colts defense. And when you look at this particular that's the defense. When you look at their defense overall, they give up 390 yards to 28th in the league. The 26th in pass yards, 231.5, 143.1 in 28th in the league in rushing yards, 19th in points, 22.7. Third down percentage, they give up 43.1% of their chances. Overall, you look at this team and you go, okay, what does this team do good? What does the Colts do well? There's a couple of situations where you could look at this. So this is a stat from NFL Pro, which I love the NFL Pro. It's absolutely phenomenal. But it's a stat about the run, the high success rate. So I'll read you this, but I'll put the graphic up too. The Lions have recorded the highest rush success rate, 47.3% on design runs this season, having allowed a ball carriers to be contacted behind the line of scrimmage at the fourth lowest rate at 35.1. When you look at the Colts, it says this. The Colts defense has allowed the fifth most average yards per carry on design runs rushes between the tackles this season at 4.7, including the third most yards after contact per carry on such carries. When you look at this Colts team and you look at this defense, I want you to understand two things. You got to understand this. They have struggled at points. They have struggled at points to defend the run. They have also struggled. They have also struggled at points to stop the run. And the thing about the Colts defense, and I'm going to pull this up. I have the graphic. I don't know why I didn't pull it up, but all right, I'm just going to read it from the NFL Pro then. Gotta go back to NFL Pro. Bear with me right now. So here's how the Detroit Lions offense matches up against their defense. Detroit's number 5 in intermediate passing, which means over the middle. St. Brown really excels at that. They're 29th. The Colts are 29th at defending the pass. Long passing, Colts are 23rd. Detroit's number 2. Passing versus pressure, Detroit's number 1. Colts are number 20. The only place that the Colts are good at is quarterback scrambles. Now, I want you to think about it. Are the Detroit Lions really a team that you could say, oh, yeah, they're going to be tough to stop the mobile golf? No. So Detroit's ranked 29th in that category. The Colts are ranked 4th. But here's the second part. Short passing, which this could mean Jahmyr Gibbs come out of the backfield. This could mean Laporta come and doing like a little bump route. or St. Brown doing a slant. They're 21st in the league, the Colts are. And that's an advantage towards the Detroit Lions. You know, the only thing that the Colts are really good at, and the only thing that they are decent at, is the quick passing. They're sixth in the league, and deep passing. They're sixth in the league. The Lions are ranked 12th in quick passing and ninth in deep passing. But if you look at their rushing statistics, the Colts defense, again with a light box, is 17th in the NFL. Rushing inside the tackles are 21st in the NFL. Rushing out of a shotgun, they're 16th in the NFL. They do a pretty good job at defending the run outside the tackles, but when you run under center, they're 13th. Overall rushing efficiency, they're ninth. Detroit's number seventh. Rushing in the red zone, they're sixth. But overall, the Colts really struggle on defense. And when you look at some of their players that they have on the defensive side of their team, you look at number one, tackles. Who has the most tackles? It's Zaire Franklin with 110. Nick Cross, the safety, with 102. He's a pretty good player too. EJ Speed and Jamarco Jones. You look at the sack portion. I brought up their players that you want, their best pass rushers. Kwity Paye's been really good this year. He's got 5.5 sacks. He's got 7 tackles for loss. But Grover Stewart, who I said is not the best pass rusher, he's got 3.5 sacks. So does DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner has 4 tackles for loss. The leader in tackles for loss is Grover Stewart, which I told you he's a pretty good player on that defensive line. And then the rookie Liatu Latu, the rookie from UCLA, he's one of their rising stars in terms of their defense. He has 3 sacks on the season, and he has 4 tackles for a loss. So it just goes to tell you this team can be tough to play against. You look at interceptions, Jamarco Jones, Nick Cross are tied for 2 with them. And you look at forced fumbles, obviously Zaire Franklin, Ohedebo, Latu has forced 2 fumbles. So they can force the fumbles. Luckily for you, being a Detroit Lions fan, you have a running back stable that is able to, make the most of it. They're not gonna be pitter patter with the ball, and that's what you got to look at. Dave Montgomery hasn't lost many fumbles. He lost that one against Minnesota. Jahmyr Gibbs hasn't lost a fumble yet this season, so knock on wood. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Detroit Lions can do against this defense, because this defense is susceptible to passing. I think a Sam Laporta is going to have a huge game, because the Colts really struggle with covering tight ends, especially with their linebacker core. Now, I think with the tight end like Sam Laporta, I think they're going to put Cross on him, to be honest, because there's no way that you can really put a linebacker like Speed or like Zaire Franklin, who are pretty bad in the pass game, on Laporta. So you're going to see a safety on Laporta. So that opens up a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs to come out of the backfield for the Detroit Lions, because when you look at what they're able to do, so Zaire, the way it's going to work is twofold. Obviously Sam Laporta is going to get covered by a major safety. So that opens up a little bit of opportunity for Jahmyr Gibbs in the pass game. That opens up a little bit of opportunity for Dave Montgomery in the pass game, maybe a Brock Wright, because you can't cover them all. And I'm very interested to see what Tim Patrick could potentially do, because when you think about them putting a safety up to defend Laporta, there's going to be someone that's going to come available. So could this be a JMO game with the way that they allow deep pass? It could be Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you think Kenny Moore is going to be on Amon-Ra St. Brown all game. We know St. Brown could really, it's really a fight with him every time. But I think Amon-Ra will get his catches, but it's more Can JMO be the player? Because you look at the deep passing, um, they don't rank high in intermediate passing. You do a crossover the middle. Maybe Jameson Williams could take a distance because I look at the back end of their defense, and yeah, they played pretty well, but the statistics bear it out. They're not a good pass defense. They struggle at times with the pass defense. Like we went through it. They're they struggle in the major points of the game. Like you look at their defense and the long passing, they're 23rd. Deep passing, they're pretty high, but they do a pretty good job. Intermediate passing, 29th. Short passing, they're 21st. So this is a team that you can pass against. I think Jared Goff can have a good game against this Colts team, because when you look at this Colts team, there's two things that stand out the most. They can't stop the run in between the tackles, which sets up a game for Dave Montgomery. I think his over under is 54 and a half, which if you get on anything under 60, take the over. Because I'm telling you right now, this is a game where Dave Montgomery can really flourish. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is good between the tackles as well, but if you just break it down and look at it game, point by point, Dave Montgomery is a pretty good running back between the tackles, and I think he can get some pretty good, decent yards between the tackles. When we come back, obviously we talked about the Colts offense, we talked about the Colts defense. Let's talk about some potential X factors. We'll talk about some bets that you can make, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. But this Colts defense is susceptible to playing the Detroit Lions. Now it's going to be interesting to see what the Colts do to kind of offset the talent that the Detroit Lions have, and what do they do to kind of make it easier for them to defend. We'll talk about that on the next segment of the podcast as we talk the X factors and bets that you can make.